Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show.
Cup of Joe Wrestling Show?
With Joey Harris. A podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. So take your favorite beverage of choice and join Joey as he takes a look at some of the biggest shows on the WWE Network.
Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show. I'm your host, Joey Harris, and we are broadcasting from makeshift studios in the shadow of South Central Virginia. You can follow the show on Twitter at Cup of Joe Pod. You can email the show at cupofjoewrestlingshow@gmail.com. Support the show at paypal.me/cupofjoepod. Folks, back again. Had a fantastic weekend. Was off this past Friday doing some errands, and I had to go pick up some items for my mother-in-law and some other things from Sam's Club, and also so I said I'm going to get a haircut, and I log in on the app to the haircutting place. 103-minute wait. I said that's okay, it's going to take me about an hour to get there, so I go ahead and check in. I get about halfway there, and I'm in just a stop of traffic, in a long line of traffic. And I look, and it says updated now. It's a 119-minute wait. So I said, that's okay. I'm not there yet. So I go, finally arrive at the place. There's two people in there getting their haircut while I'm there. And they've got 4 chairs. It took me 30 seconds to wait. The woman says something wrong with our system. One guy signed in 10 times or something. So got my haircut. Got the stuff from Sam's Club, and that was a slog in itself. And I'm picking up for somebody else, and it says, oh, you got to check in on the app. So now I'm getting my mother-in-law's information so I can sign in as her, and it was just a whole thing. And then I went to see my friend TJ in a play. He was the voice of Audrey 2 in Little Shop of Horrors and just knocked it out of the park. I was so proud of him. His performance was great. So I'm going back to my in-laws, is where my wife is, on Sunday, put it in the GPS, do the GPS thing, stop for some coffee, and I'm going. But I come out at a different place that I thought I was going to come out. And my wife is like, can you stop and get some groceries? She sends me the list. And so I put a grocery store in on the GPS. There's one like 3 miles away. And so I'm shopping, and she calls me, and she's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm at the Kroger. And she's like, no, where? And I'm trying to explain it to her, and she just kept saying, where are you? And I said, I don't know where I am. I came out a different place. So I'm sending her the pin thing from my location, and it was just a whole thing. But thankfully, I got the items that I needed and got to where I was going. Today, we look at Starrcade 92 from WCW. Starrcade 92 Battlebowl, the Lethal Lottery 2, was shown on pay-per-view on December the 28th, 1992 from the Omni in Atlanta, Georgia. There were 8,000 in attendance. We start out with our intro. Jim Ross and Jesse Ventura welcome us to Starrcade. They run down some of what we're going to see before throwing it to Eric Bischoff. Bischoff says Rick Rude has a herniated disc and that Steve Williams will take his place against Ron Simmons. They then show the wrestlers standing by to be chosen for Battlebowl. Tony Schiavone, Bill Watts, and Hank Aaron are in the ring to present Sting with the Battlebowl ring from the previous year. Sting says he is looking to make it 2 in a row. Larry Zbyszko and Missy Hyatt are at the podium to prepare to draw names for the Lethal Lottery. First Lethal Lottery bout, Van Hammer and Dan Spivey versus Cactus Jack and Johnny B. Bad. Bad gets the biggest ovation when he comes out. Jack and Hammer start. Jack gets Hammer in the corner. Hammer comes back with a corner whip, but Jack takes him down with a double leg pickup. Hammer comes back with a corner whip and a clothesline. Hammer follows it up with a leg drop for a 1 count. Bad in, back and forth. Hammer with an elbow drop for a 2 count. Bad with some nice arm drags and a Frankensteiner. Scott who? He gets a 2 count. Bad with an armbar and Jack tagged in. Spivey tagged in, back and forth. Spivey with a clothesline. He punishes Cactus Jack and Hammer tag back in. Bad tagged in. Spivey buries his knee into Bad after Hammer hits an Irish whip. Hammer asks what he is doing, and Spivey tags himself in. Spivey with a sidewalk slam. He gets a bear hug on Bad. Hammer tagged in. He gets a 2 count. Spivey tagged back in. Quick tags by Hammer and Spivey. Cactus Jack tagged in and corner whips and then bulldogs Spivey down. He drops the elbow for a 2 count. Back and forth. Jack with a clothesline. Jack tries to tag Bad in, but he is still on the floor after being thrown there earlier by Spivey. Spivey with a side Russian leg sweep to Jack for a 2 count. Hammer in and delivers a flying shoulder block. Hammer covers, but Bad in to break up the pin. He goes to drop an elbow on Hammer, who moves, and Cactus Jack gets the elbow instead. Jack pushes Bad, who then hits Jack with a left hook. Hammer rolls Jack up to get the pin. Tony, Larry, and Missy pull the next names out. Dustin Rhodes and Big Van Vader with Harley Race versus Kensuke Sasaki and the Barbarian. Vader and Barbarian start. They push each other. Vader trying to intimidate Barbarian. That is not going to work. They try to clothesline each other, but neither goes down. Barbarian scoop slams Vader. Vader returns the favor to Barbarian. Barbarian with some shoulder blocks. Vader blocks Barbarian down in response. Vader pounding Barbarian down in the corner. Barbarian comes back with some clotheslines to knock Vader down. Rhodes tagged in and Vader holds Barbarian in a bear hug for Rhodes to hit with a clothesline. He gets a 2 count. Barbarian with a clothesline for a 2 count of his own. Sasaki tagged in. He and Rhodes go back and forth. Sasaki with a clothesline. Rhodes with a drop kick. Vader tagged in and hits Sasaki with a body press from the second rope. Vader follows it up with a clothesline and a power slam for a 2 count. Sasaki comes back with a series of moves, but runs into the boot from Vader and Sasaki's lip is busted open. Sasaki counters a suplex attempt with a suplex of his own, and that takes some strength. Barbarian and Rhodes both tagged in. Rhodes with a flurry of offense and gets a near fall from it. Sasaki comes in to break up the pin, and he and Rhodes start chopping each other. Barbarian rushes Rhodes, who moves and Sasaki gets hit instead. Rhodes rolls Barbarian up to get the pin. Vader and Race attack Rhodes after the match. We get a Super Brawl 3 ad. The third team is drawn. Barry Windham and the Great Muta versus Too Cold Scorpio and Brian Pillman. This match should be interesting given the participants. Scorpio and Windham start. They trade moves. Scorpio with an armbar. Muta tagged in. He and Scorpio circle each other. They trade waist locks and Pillman tagged in. He chops Muta. Pillman with a drop kick for a 2 count. Muta comes back with a shoulder block. He follows it up with a drop kick and a side headlock takeover. Windham tagged in. They go back and forth. They chop each other in the corner. Muta tagged back in. Pillman drives Muta into the canvas. Muta with a karate kick to the jaw. Pillman comes back and tags Scorpio. Scorpio with a big clothesline to Muta. Scorpio with a splash, but Muta gets his knees up. He tags Windham in. Windham hits a lariat and a leg drop for a 2 count. A float over suplex gets another 2 count. Muta tagged in and they hit a double drop kick to Scorpio. Scorpio coming back. He scoop slams and drops a leg on Muta. Scorpio with a 450 splash on Muta, but Windham breaks up the count. Windham plants Scorpio with a big DDT. Muta hits the moonsault to get the pin. Fourth match, Sting and Steve Williams versus Eric Watts and Jushin Liger. Sting and Liger start. Liger with a side headlock. Back and forth. Williams tagged in. Watts also tagged in and hits a couple of arm drags. Williams knocks Watts to the mat. Watts comes back with a crossbody. Liger comes in and attacks Williams with kicks. Williams with the clothesline out of the corner. He gets a 2 count. Sting comes in and slams Liger up against a turnbuckle and gets a 2 count. Liger comes back with a sunset flip for a 2 count. Williams tagged in. He guillotines Liger on the top rope. Sting tagged back in. He gets a clothesline and a 2 count. Sting misses the Stinger splash when Liger moves. Williams tagged back in. He hits Liger with a big right hand. Sting tagged back in and gets a half crab on. Liger gets to the ropes. Williams tagged back in. He hits Liger with a forearm. Liger comes back with a sleeper. Williams with a backdrop and Sting tagged back in. He hits a suplex for a 2 count. Williams back in. Liger with a bulldog and Watts tagged in. Watts with a couple of drop kicks and gets the STF on, but Williams immediately gets to the ropes. Watts with a crossbody that Williams turns into a stun gun to get the pin. So Battlebowl has been set. Jim and Jesse talk about Battlebowl. Tony and Larry talk about the NWA Championship match coming up. NWA World Heavyweight Championship match. Masa Chono versus the Great Muta. The bell rings. Chono with a snapmare. Back and forth. Chono with a leg scissors. He hits a roundhouse kick. Muta rolls outside to regroup. Chono with a side headlock. Muta fights out. Chono with a shoulder block. Muta back out to regroup again. Back in. Test of strength. They exchange moves with their hands locked together. Muta with an abdominal stretch. Chono comes back and gets out. Muta transitions into an armbar. Back and forth. Muta with the head scissors on Chono. Chono with a counter into a version of the Scorpion Deathlock. Muta back to his feet. Chono throws Muta outside. Muta back in, and Chono throws him back out and follows. Muta gets in the ring, and it's like a game of cat and mouse. Chono with an armbar into a hammerlock and gets Muta down. Chono back to the armbar. Chono with a scoop slam. He goes up top, but gets caught in Muta with a superplex. Muta with an Irish whip and a backdrop. He follows it up with a half crab into a version of the Indian Deathlock, into a chin lock as well. Chono gets to the ropes. Chono with a suplex. Muta comes back with a spinning kick that knocks Chono to the outside. Chono back in, and Muta catches him with a handspring elbow. He follows that up with a backbreaker. Muta goes for a moonsault, but Chono moves out of the way. Chono goes to work on Muta's leg. Back and forth. Muta with a close 2 count. They both go for drop kicks at the same time and both down. Muta counters a suplex attempt and falls on Chono for a 2 count. Muta goes for a drop kick after an Irish whip, but Chono holds onto the ropes and then gets the STF on Muta. Muta finally gives up. Jim and Jesse talk about Rick Rude's injury and give an update that Rude could be stripped of his U.S. title. Rude comes out and says that a doctor has ruined the biggest day of his life and WCW wants to make it worse by stripping him of his title. WCW World Heavyweight Championship match. Ron Simmons versus Steve Williams. The bell rings and Williams extends his hands to Simmons. Simmons shakes the hand. They circle each other. Simmons with a side headlock. Williams tries to push off, but Simmons doesn't let go. Williams tries again to the same effect. Williams finally pushes off and Simmons comes back with a shoulder block and neither man moves. They face each other in 3-point stance mode and charge and neither man moves again. Simmons catches Williams with a clothesline and gets a 2 count. Simmons with an armbar. Williams gets out and rolls to the outside to regroup. Simmons picks a wrist lock up when Williams comes back in the ring. Williams grabs hair to break free. Simmons goes back to the wrist lock. Williams responds with a forearm. Simmons goes back to working on the arm. Simmons with another hair pull. They trade right hands. Williams with a corner whip, but Simmons catches him with a back elbow. Simmons slams Williams down. Simmons goes back to the armbar. Simmons with a pump handle slam. Simmons goes up top, but Williams sidesteps him as he comes off. Williams stomping Simmons. Williams slams Simmons' knee on the apron area. Williams with a drop kick to the knee area. Williams with a half crab to the injured knee. He then slams his boot onto the injured knee several times. Williams attacks the knee every time Simmons gets back to his feet. Williams with a leg lock, but Simmons gets free. Williams gets him back down. Williams continues to concentrate on the injured leg. Williams with a backbreaker for a 2 count. Williams with an Irish whip and a clothesline for another 2 count. Williams goes back to the leg lock. Williams with a scoop slam. He follows it up with tackles to the injured leg of Simmons. Simmons catches Williams with a clothesline and then a sidewalk slam. He hits Williams' leg with a couple of tackles. He tries for a third one. Williams avoids it and Simmons spills to the outside but lands on his feet. Williams comes out after Simmons. Simmons rushes Williams with the clothesline, but Williams moves and Simmons hits the ring post instead. They both get counted out. They continue to fight outside, and Simmons runs Williams into the ring post. Williams attacks Simmons again in the ring. They switch it to Williams being disqualified. We get another Super Brawl 3 ad. Larry and Tony talk about the Tag Team Championship match coming up. Unified World Tag Team Championship match. Ricky Steamboat and Shane Douglas versus Brian Pillman and Barry Windham. The crowd seems subdued for this one. Douglas and Pillman start. Jesse talk about Douglas being a Rush Limbaugh fan, so take a shot if you're drinking at home. Back and forth feeling each other out. Pillman chopping Douglas in the corner. Douglas with a right hand to Pillman. They circle each other again. They trade wrist locks. Pillman choking Douglas on the top rope. Douglas with a drop kick to Pillman and Steamboat and Douglas with a double drop kick to Windham when he gets in. They do a lot of double team moves to Windham, but Pillman is the legal man. Windham finally tagged in. Steamboat also tagged in and the crowd comes to life for that. They go back and forth. Steamboat with a double chop and a suplex. More right hands from Steamboat. Douglas tagged back in and gets a snapmare on Windham. Into a chin lock. Windham with a belly to back suplex to get out of the move. Steamboat tagged in and goes after Windham. Steamboat with a snapmare. Steamboat knocks Windham to the outside and slams him. Douglas comes out and slams Windham on the ramp. Back in, Steamboat hits a swinging neck breaker. He follows it up with a front face lock and Douglas tagged in. Douglas with a rear chin lock. Wyndham comes back with a jawbreaker. Pillman tagged in. He takes over on Douglas. He chops Douglas again in the corner. Pillman Irish whips Douglas into an elbow from Wyndham. Pillman gets to the apron and Douglas drop kicks him from the apron to the barricade. Wyndham down to check on Pillman. Douglas gets Pillman back in the ring and goes up top. Pillman drop kicks him while he is up top and Douglas falls from the turnbuckle to the floor. Wyndham then clotheslines Douglas. Pillman guillotines Douglas from the top rope as he tries to get in. The heels take over on Douglas. Wyndham in and headbutts Douglas. He is punishing Douglas and keeping him from tagging. Wyndham goes Steamboat in so Pillman can double team Douglas. Pillman tagged in. He chops Douglas down. Douglas comes back so Pillman gets Douglas in a drop toe hold and tags Wyndham in. Wyndham throws Douglas back out and goes out to punch Douglas. Steamboat comes out and hits Wyndham with a chair. Jesse complains but the crowd cheers. Wyndham tags Pillman, who cuts off a Douglas tag attempt. He gets a series of 2 counts. Pillman runs Douglas into Wyndham's boot. Wyndham tagged in and hits Douglas while Pillman holds him. The crowd trying to get behind Douglas, but he is fading. Pillman tagged back in. Pillman with a suplex and a splash to Douglas. He gets a 2 count. Pillman goads Steamboat in again so that the heels can double team Douglas while the referee is getting Steamboat out. Wyndham tagged in. Douglas counters a suplex attempt. Back and forth and Steamboat tagged in to big fanfare. He cleans house. Wyndham hits Steamboat with a power slam. He gets a belly to back suplex and tags Pillman in. Pillman goes Douglas in and throws Steamboat over the top rope as the referee was getting Douglas out. Wyndham runs Steamboat into the ring post. Steamboat comes back with a chop to Pillman for a 2 count. They exchange chops in the center of the ring. Pillman with a tilt-a-whirl head scissors for a 2 count. Wyndham in and hits a forearm to Steamboat from the top rope. Wyndham with some big right hands to Steamboat, but Steamboat won't go down. Wyndham with a boot to the abs and goes up top. Steamboat ducks the lariat attempt and hits a kick to Wyndham. Steamboat runs Wyndham's head into the mat. Douglas and Pillman both tagged in. Douglas hitting both heels. Now all 4 men in the ring. Steamboat clotheslines Wyndham out to the ramp and he ends up there too as a result. Pillman rushes Douglas, who catches Pillman with a belly-to-belly suplex to get the pin. One fan at ringside didn't like the result and boos. Jim and Jesse talk about the King of Cable final coming up. King of Cable final, Sting versus Big Van Vader with Harley Race. Vader and Race out first, and Vader says it's time to go to war. Sting out to a massive ovation as he is easily the most popular wrestler in WCW. Vader gets on one knee and does his V sign to Sting. They circle each other. They lock up. Vader pushes off. Another lock up and Sting with a series of lefts and rights. Vader says no pain. Vader with a scoop slam. Vader does it a second time. Vader with a crushing blow as Sting rushes him. Vader guillotines Sting on the top rope. He does it again on the other side. Sting goes outside to regroup. He comes back in and hits a cannonball to Vader to knock him down, and Enziguri knocks Vader down again, and then Sting hits a suplex. He clotheslines Vader out, and they both go over to the outside. The headgear comes off Vader. Race over to confer with Vader. Outside, and Sting with a suicide dive to take them both out. The crowd taunts Vader as he gets back to his feet. Vader hitting Sting with left and right hands in the corner. Sting with an arm drag, but Vader kicks Sting in the face as Sting goes for the Stinger Splash. Back and forth. Sting hits a DDT. Sting gets Vader up and superplexes him to a massive pop from the crowd. Sting gets a 2 count. Sting gets the Scorpion Deathlock on, but Vader gets to the ropes. He rolls out to regroup, but Sting follows him out. He goes to splash Vader, but Vader moves and Sting hits the barricade. Sting struggles to get in the ring. He does get in, but collapses to the mat. Vader with a short clothesline. Vader hits a corner splash. He gets a 2 count. Vader with a series of rights and hits a belly-to-back suplex. Vader hits a splash for a 2 count. He puts Sting in a chin lock and then a submission on the arm and neck. He gets another 2 count. Vader gets a backslide in for a 2 count. Vader tries for a sunset flip. Vader goes to come down on Sting, but Sting moves. Vader with a side headlock that Sting counters with a belly-to-back suplex. Vader goes back to a chin lock. He then hits Sting with right hands in the corner. Sting tries to cover up. Vader puts Sting on the top rope. Sting fights off a superplex attempt with a thumb to the eye, and Vader falls off the turnbuckle. Vader falls to the mat. Vader goes back to beating Sting in the corner, and Sting tells him to come on. Vader with an Irish whip, and Sting punches Vader. Another right hand knocks Vader down. Sting hits a fall-away slam. Sting goes up top and hits a splash for a 2 count. Race gets up on the apron to distract Sting so Vader can hit Sting from behind. Vader with a choke slam and a splash from the second rope. He goes up again. Sting catches Vader up there and power slams him to get the pin and win the King of Cable trophy. Jesse interviews Sting and Sting says there's only one thing left, and that's to win Battlebowl. Tony and Larry talk about what we just saw and about Battlebowl coming up. They show an interview Tony did with Paul Hornick from the Green Bay Packers about the importance of winning the Super Bowl and how important the Battlebowl ring is. Battlebowl. Dan Spivey, Dustin Rhodes, The Great Muta, Barry Windham, Sting, Big Van Vader, Steve Williams, and Van Hammer are your participants. Sting is the last one to come out and Vader attacks him on the ramp. Officials trying to separate them. Everyone else pairing off in the ring. Now all 8 in the ring. Forearms are flying. Spivey trying to get Hammer out. Sting hit with a clothesline from Vader. Spivey and Windham trying to eliminate Sting. Vader helps Sting. More forearms, but no one eliminated yet. Vader down and Sting tries to get the sleeper on him. Van Hammer eliminated. Rhodes bulldogs Windham out on the ramp. Spivey eliminated. Vader rushes Sting and they both spill out onto the ramp. Down to 4 men. Rhodes busts Windham open with a shot. Muta runs Williams into a turnbuckle. Rhodes with a DDT on Windham. Williams runs and hits Rhodes, but they both spill out to be eliminated. 2 left and the crowd starts a Muta chant. Windham with a float over suplex. Muta holds onto the ropes to avoid being eliminated. Windham hits a suplex. He then hits a superplex and a standing dropkick. Muta with a series of dropkicks to eliminate Windham to win Battlebowl. Jim and Jesse recap the night and sign off from the Omni. Final thoughts. This was an okay show as WCW is floundering at this point. Things would pick up some in 1993 for them. This is worth at least one look. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TheJoeyHarris. If you like the show, please leave a review on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or your preferred podcast app. I would really appreciate it, and it helps people to find the show. Thank you for joining me this week. This is Joey saying so long from the heart of Virginia.
The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show is a production of Baby Kangaroo Media.